Hello, friends, and here we are. Here we are back for another episode on the podcast, On to Purpose Over a Paycheck. I am Troy. I am your host. I am taking you through my journey. Let me just give you a quick background. December 19th of 2025, I made the conscious choice to leave my $85,000 business career. That was my job. I left my $85,000 career to become my own entrepreneur in moving into becoming a master coach and the manifesting man. And that's where I'm here. And this whole podcast is about this journey, right? It's all about this journey of the shift that I made. So welcome, welcome, welcome. If you haven't hit that follow button, make sure you're hitting the follow button so that you can stay connected with us as we bring out more episodes here of this podcast. Also, make sure you leave a rating, as well as any comments or questions that you may have. I greatly appreciate it. Love it. I am so happy and grateful that you hit that play button to join me in this journey and listening to this episode. So thank you and welcome, welcome. All right, today's episode is called Trusting the Pace Over Your Own Becoming. This episode is about releasing one of the most quiet pressures that show up once momentum builds. And it's the pressure to compare, it's the pressure to speed up, and it's the pressure to match someone else's timeline. So this conversation about staying anchored in your own rhythm, that's what we're going to talk about, even when the world suggests that you should be further along. Because that's where sometimes in my thinking is like, all right, I'm already going into week number 3, going into week number 4, and I should already be further. And I look at comparison at times. I look at comparing myself to other people. And again, remember, everyone's journey is different based on how you're treating it. And that's what I have to tell myself. So we're going to have a great conversation about that. It's about, again, staying anchored in my own rhythm, not what the world or society suggests. Let me talk a little bit about the invisible comparison trap. Comparison doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it's going to sound like, they seem further ahead. Why is this taking me so long? Am I doing enough? Those two last questions, those hit me a lot. Why is this taking me so long? Why is it taking me so long to get revenue? To support my family. Why is it taking me long for people to be interest? To have the interest in jumping into my programs or my coaching or purchasing my ebooks, right? And I always ask myself, am I doing enough? Or am I not doing enough? So what's happening is comparison will start to show up even after I've made progress, not before. Comparison will show up after the progress has already started, not before it. When things begin to work, the mind looks outward for benchmarks. Remember, we talked about performances. We talked about we have these bars to meet, these expectations. We'll instill expectations for ourselves. World society will have expectations for ourselves. Our family and friends will have expectations for us. And that's the thing about it, is that we start to, we begin this work, the mind will start looking outward for benchmarks, because those benchmarks, what they usually are, they're incomplete stories. You're seeing someone else's highlight reel, not their nervous system history or the internal work. You're getting that from me. You are seeing my nervous system. You are hearing my history, and you are seeing the internal work I'm going through. You're not just getting the highlights. So this is why the pace that we develop, the pace that you create, this is why it's personal, because it's not random. The pace is shaped by my lived experiences, your lived experiences, your capacity for change, your nervous system, and the things that you're unlearning. Because it's going slower doesn't mean it's weaker. it often means that there's more to be integrated. And because when we start with that integration, it's what allows the growth to last. There is a cost of force timing. Because when you start to rush your pace to match someone else's, you start to skip the integration. You begin to override your intuition, and you're beginning to reintroduce urgency. And again, remember, friend, when urgency enters back in, it disconnects you from the body. Growth that is forced might look impressive, but it often comes at a cost of the sustainability that you've created. Because becoming who you are, this new identity and what you're doing, it's not a race. It is a relationship that you are creating. And we all know that relationships, there's a lot of work. Relationships, there's a lot of work. So why trust feels harder than action? Well, the action feels productive, but trust feels passive. However, trust is active. It just doesn't look loud. This is what trust looks like. Staying when it's quiet, continuing when it's quiet, repeating the work, repeating what works for you. You're not reinventing yourself every week. You're staying consistent in who you are. And letting results arrive instead of chasing them. That is the biggest one that I've had to work through. That's one of the biggest ones I've had to work through, was letting the results arrive and stop chasing them. I've had to learn that trust requires patience, and patience isn't something most of us were ever taught. That's a true thing. I could do a whole show on patience. Right? A whole different show on patience. What happens is that our nervous system tends to set the pace. So our nervous system knows how fast it can safely grow. So if you're moving faster than you can integrate, your nervous system is going to respond back with some anxiety. It's going to respond back with some fatigue. It's going to respond back with some self-doubt. It's going to respond back with some shutdown. And you might consider that failure, but it's not failure. What it is, it's communication. Excuse me. It is communication. Listening to your pace, excuse me. Listening to your pace isn't indulgent. Listening to your pace is intelligence. So if you're thinking, or you're ever wondering, should I be further along by now? I've asked that question to myself. Shouldn't I be further along by now? I want you to know, and I want you to hear this very clearly. You're not late, you're not behind, you're not missing something. What is happening is you're becoming at the speed that allows you to stay whole. And that, my friend, matters more than how fast things appear on the outside. That matters more than how fast things are appearing in the outside. So we have to learn, we have to adjust on letting go of external timelines. Because these external timelines are designed for systems. They're not designed for humans. These external timelines do not account for healing. They do not account for regulation. They do not account for identity shifts. Friend, your timeline is valid, even when it doesn't match the expectations. Because progress, my friend, it is not linear. Oh, holy smokes. It is not linear. It is layered. It is these twists and turns. It is not a straight line. It is not a straight shot. It is layered. So when you're building this trust, the trust will come through with the staying. Trust doesn't come from certainty. Trust comes from staying present when certainty isn't available. So every time you choose alignment again, you honor your pace and you resist in comparing, you are strengthening your trust. And then trust becomes your new stability. When you're working with the new becoming or the new identity shift of this person that you're turning into, and if you find yourself asking, when will I arrive? You need to reframe that question to how can I change, or how am I changing as I stay? So again, if you're asking yourself, when will I arrive? Reframe that question to how am I changing as I stay? Because becoming this new person, this new shift, this new identity that you're making isn't about when you arrive. It is about the consistency of this new identity. And the consistency starts to compound quietly, powerfully, and over time. All right? That's what it does. So what I want to do is I want to leave you with this. I want you to know that you do not need to hurry in who you're becoming. You do not need to match anyone else's pace. And you do not need to prove your progress. This path, your path, is unfolding at the speed that lets you stay with yourself. And that, my friend, is not something to fix. That is something to trust in. That is something to trust in. All right. As I always say, if this episode resonated with you, please make sure you are following the podcast and staying with me on this journey. Make sure you're leaving a rating or comments. Man, we're getting deep into about this whole middle process, the things that people don't talk about. It's been a lot. There's so much more to come. So much more to learn. So much more to let go and trust. All right, friend. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for just spending that time with me. And I hope that you are taking away some great nuggets of knowledge. I hope this is resonating with you because you matter. You matter. All right, friend. Something to leave you with. I want you to know that you're not behind. You are becoming. All right? You are becoming. And with that, as I always say, I will see you on the next episode, and I will talk to you soon.